Mm. I say it a lot, and it's very true, at least it is for me, that I've been doing this for a really long time. And one of the great things about it is I never quite understand it, how it works, why it works. And years ago, I stopped trying to figure it out. And I was just grateful in my heart that every time I sat down to do this meditation, I would grow in myself. I would change inside myself. I would, really reach a much higher level of consciousness inside myself. I didn't have to understand that. What was more important is experiencing it, really allowing my consciousness, to embrace the teachings, and not only the teachings that take place in myself, but the teachings of life, that all of life is the guru, all of life is the teacher, and always presenting us with, extraordinary opportunities to grow. It eventually reaches a place where there is no separation. The positive and negative are just energy. And it's just basically how we see the world. And no matter what it is that we look at in life, we can, it can be positive, it could be negative, depending upon the state of our minds. It also can be just energy. And if it's just energy, we can embrace it, take it in, let it teach us what we have to do in our lives and how we have to grow in our lives and how we have to make the effort inside ourselves to truly change so we can recognize how sacred everything is around us. Everything is our teacher. And it took me, a long time to develop this way of looking at the world. But I promise you, it is amazing to be able to see life this way. And all the things that appear to be ordinary and humdrum, everything becomes sacred. Everything becomes a miracle of life. That takes place as a human being changes inside. As a human being gets past their own anxieties and neurosis and fears and insecurity, and they can see the world in a clearer way. And I think it's just become something that is kind of an amazing way to live, because it enables us to recognize what's real in the world, what's an illusion in the world. And people ask me all the time, what's real, and I tell them reality and illusion are exactly the same thing. It just depends upon our state of being and how we view them. If we view things as an opportunity to grow, you understand, they're not an illusion. They're real. They're teaching us what we have to do to grow. If we view things as a way of defeating ourselves or being angry at the world or judging the world, it becomes an illusion. It just sucks all our energy out of us. Does anyone have a question they would like to ask?
Stuart, it's Chris. I have a question.
Yes, Chris.
As you were speaking, I just got so much out of what you were talking about. So that's really, it feels to me like the purpose of our deeper surrender is to surrender to that experience of the nothingness of
Chris, what is the question?
Is that so?
Look, no matter what we experience in life, it requires a certain degree of surrender.
Yeah.
Letting go of our judgment, of our opinions, of what we think is right or wrong, and letting it teach us something about us, who we are, what we have to do to grow, how we have to build a chakra system inside that is strong enough to connect us with infinite energy in the universe or God or whatever one wants to call that. So no matter what the experience is, it simply depends upon literally depends upon the amount of training somebody has inside themselves in the development of a chakra system, so they can begin to see this experience and how it can help them to grow. Not spending their time complaining and bitching and, oh my God, and kvetching and, about, all the things that are wrong in life. And, can this help me grow? Now, I learned this from Rudy. I mean, he used to break my chops all the time. And, and I knew what he was doing. He knew that I wasn't going to run away, and I would get over my upset. And whatever it was, it taught me how to stop judging the world. Mm-hmm. And it taught me how to use whatever the situation was as a reason for me to get stronger in myself, to a reason for me to use it as a step on a ladder that got me closer to God.
Oh, yeah.
Eventually it frees you of the one person that keeps you in prison, and that's yourself. Yeah. Really, it's true.
Yeah, I get it.
I mean, the mind never stops yakking to this and that, and we know better than everybody, and we have all this dogma and conditioning and way to live. And meanwhile, there's the world, and the world is, 1,000, 1 billion different people living their lives, and each one of them has something to teach us.
Yeah.
If we'll let them do it, if we let life do it. Nature is an extraordinary teacher if we allow nature to do it. Yeah. Life itself is. So, I went through hell to learn this. And mostly it was just Stuart having to deal with Stuart, having to finally get free of me, because I was the one who was keeping me from doing this. And all of the, doctrine and dogma and all the people I used to meet with their ideas of right and I finally had to let go of it all and say, Stuart, what is this teaching you? How can you use this variant of experience to grow every day in your life? And ultimately, how can I get free of me?
Yeah.
Understand, every human being manufactures a prison that they live in. And it could be, everything can be right, you're totally convinced, and your rightness becomes the prison. Instead of, okay, I'm a little bit wrong here. What can I learn?
I love that. Thank you.
What can I learn? I don't have to be right and all the time. I can learn something. And all of this is part of a growth process that takes place in a human being. And eventually you can take a breath and you don't have to be living in your manufactured prison, that everybody creates for themselves. The worst of it is being right.
Yeah.
Being convinced that you know better than everybody else. Then there's nowhere to go. And you simply become, a bore to everybody else, and everybody wants to avoid you because you're always telling everybody how to live their lives. I don't know how any of you should live your lives. I do know that I'm responsible for nurturing each and every person that comes to these classes and doing my depth of inner work to provide that nurturing so they can find their own unique path to God.
Yeah.
What your paths are? God knows. Did Rudy know what my path was, what I've been through in my life? No, but he just endlessly nurtured this crazy kid who came into his world, who we thought had some potential. And he never stopped providing the nurturing that I needed to grow. And then it took 20 years after he passed on to really learn what he taught me, of a consistent doing of my inner work, my meditation, my practice, taking full responsibility for my service to God on myself, and to do one thing, that was to get free of Stuart.
Yeah.
Free of me.
That sure is my big project. Thank you very much.
Does anyone else have a question? Sometimes the hardest people to teach are the most gifted people. I really mean that. People that, they're born with certain gifts and they know everything about spiritual this and that. They're very difficult to teach anything. And people that struggle with themselves every day and, they're a little less gifted and they have to make up the difference and do the work. And, they become the great souls on the earth. Does anyone else have a question?
Stuart, this is Emma.
Yes, Emma.
Could you speak some words upon peace?
Peace? Look, the greatest war, Emma, and not only Emma, everyone, the greatest war on this planet goes on inside every human being. It's a struggle and a war of dragons fighting with each other. And if people would just find a way to live with their hearts open every day, 90% of the madness would stop in the world. That's really where the peace has to come from. Now, look, I'm not naive, and there are 8 billion people in the world, and they're not all going to, that's why God has presented us with this incredible thing called reincarnation. So people can evolve and grow and spend lifetimes learning how to do one thing, how to become peaceful inside themselves. Because once you have that internal peace, you see the world differently. You begin to see what, the seed of God in every other human being. And it becomes a different world that we live in. So, yes, look, people, they picket, trust me, I've done it. I lived through the Vietnam War, and I picketed and I screamed and yelled for peace and this and that. And, as I always say, the world is 10 times crazier today than it was back in the 1970s and the late 60s. And mostly because there's no inner peace inside human beings. People are torn apart by anxiety, by neurosis, by the lack of training in how to build a system inside that is strong enough to keep the heart open. A person who lives with love and peace doesn't do damage to another human being. So to me, look, peace is an internal matter. Learning how to live every day with one's heart open. Learning how to love, learning how to forgive. Forgiveness is a very big one. Learning how to forgive yourself, learning how to forgive other people, learning how to recognize that anything that took place already exists in the past, has no more relevance today. And if we learn to forgive ourselves and other people in the moment, the present becomes a much richer place for us to live. Don't just leave everything in the past that's happened. And I think, to me, this is the essential thing. And again, I'm not naive. And I don't think there's 8 billion people that in my lifetime that are going to do this. So there's going to be consistent war and anger and people getting revenge on each other. And mostly because people don't know how to live at peace with themselves. They say in the Bhagavad Gita, many are born and few are chosen. Everyone comes to the earth to learn this. In every given generation, there's a handful of people that learn this. God is love, unconditional love. And unconditional love is It's a grace. It's an incredible state of being. And when a person can live with their heart open that way, they will never do that. They won't do damage to them. Or if they do damage and they say so, they ask for forgiveness. So it's not marching for peace. Look, I've had organizations I run working to keep children from being, sold into sexual slavery. I've written books about it, for God's sake, about that kind of thing. And at one point I realized, Stuart, unless people get training, unless people learn how to build kind of system inside that allows them to live with their hearts open, these problems will never go away. And it forced me to let go of something that was very important to me at one point, and to focus on doing deep inner work. They say in the Jewish religion, if you save one life in your lifetime, the gates of heaven just open up for you, And what's that life that initially has to be saved is one's own. I mean, Chris can tell you that, we ran the Bahini Foundation, the Little Sisters Foundation. We worked for years trying to keep children from being sold into sexual slavery. We ran safe houses for kids. I mean, So it wasn't just talking about things, it was actually actively living this in the world. And God bless Chris, what she lived through in Kathmandu was extraordinary. But at the same time, it taught me some important factors about what real peace is, what real inner peace is, and how the world can only be transformed when people find that inside themselves. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Okay, thank you. God bless you all. I always tell you at the end of these classes, I come here because every single one of you is my teacher. Every single one of you affords me an opportunity to grow. And God bless you all for being here, for being part of this. Again, I'll just make a little announcement. On Fridays, I post on my website my little posts about Tantra, and there's another one going to come out tomorrow. And I just do this because, first of all, I really love to write. And second of all, I don't want to worry about publishing because that becomes kind of a pain in the ass, but I can post these things and people can read them and, hopefully they can benefit from them. So thank you and God bless you all. And there will be a class on Sunday and I'm looking forward to seeing everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.